Hi, I'm Dr. Dan Ratner, and today we start a new series with another person of 4-session consultation, taking them through the process of the 3 columns and the action steps. Today we have Diane, and I'm very pleased to have her with us. She is every bit the goodest, and you're going to hear that, but we are going to go through the emotions column today, and I look forward to that. If you haven't already, click subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, hit like if you like what you're hearing, and put your comments below, and I will get back to you personally. Hi, Diane. It is so good to have you joining me here. And as always, I want to applaud you because anybody who comes here to talk directly on video, it does take bravery. And I feel like we're old friends by now, though. We've been having a lot of interactions.
Yes. And thank you. And thank you for your generosity. And however I can help in my own process, I'm happy to do that.
Well, thank you. And I do think this is going to help a lot of people to see how does this process go. So I'll dive right in.
Okay.
So you get your time's worth. Because you've seen Daniel, you've seen Barb, you've seen the other sessions. Mm-hmm. Today we'll talk about the emotions column. Now, for people who are just tuning in, though, maybe they haven't seen it, I'm going to just briefly explain it, even though this is kind of review for you. There are the 3 columns that contribute to mind-body experience, and this is stuff that I've come up with in response to what I saw Sarno do, how it helped me, and the ways that I developed getting better. So the emotions column is a lot like Sarno's work in general, where we discover the main things that are going on emotionally and what they can be leading to, and we correlate it to symptoms. The doubt column is about the chronic conditions, though. The emotions column is about the onset and uptick in symptoms. So we have ways of categorizing these things that's helpful. And that's how I got to this, is I was kind of wondering, how can I organize this for myself? So the doubt column is about the chronic conditions, when we start to think about it in a certain way that locks the conditions in. And then there's the power column, of course, and I know this is a review for you, Diane, but this is more for the viewer. The power column is the experience of the self relationship and whether it's in the place that it needs to be. So next session we'll do doubt column, the third session we'll do power, and the fourth one we'll do action steps to talk about what are you going to do about all this. So I reviewed quickly because you, I think, already have this pretty well. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to develop your emotional themes, and I want to remind you what those tend to be like.
Okay.
This, again, will be, I think a review for you because you've gone over these and you've been using this. And so you may already have some of this mapped out, which will be an interesting thing for us to look at. But the themes are very broad. They're very high stakes. And then they're usually attached to some specific experience, event, way of thinking about life that is unfolded. So I want to ask you, because you're in a bit of a different spot than some of the other people in that you've been working at this for a while. Mm-hmm. Do you feel that your map, the kind of the rough draft, is filled out? I wanted to know what we're working on today.
Yeah, I do. I don't think that there's something hidden. I don't think that I have some emotional background that I'm not aware of. So yeah, I think I know what the biggest triggers are. And
okay, so the way I'm thinking about it then is I want you to read what you've got, and we're going to polish it, and I may just make some observations. There's a way in which you may be helping people to show what you were able to do all on your own.
Okay, so I'm reading out what my main areas for the emotional column is?
Yeah, and let's go one by one. Just read me one.
Okay. All right, so feeling of being unworthy and not measuring up. And that's not in my whole life, but it comes to me at times, and, some of my family background and what have you. And I think that was lack of skill with my parents rather than poor intention. Mm-hmm. So that's one. I feel as though I was the scapegoat in our family, and that I'm wired quite differently from my parents and my sister. So I think I'm maybe wired more sensitively than they are. And in my own experience, I see a lot of people that are very sensitive, more prone to chronic pain issues.
Okay, so before you get further,
Hmm.
I want to actually go back and review what you've got, because I think there's a little polishing we can do that's going to make these even sharper in their
Okay.
focus. And the reason I say this, and this is important, and you know this,
Yeah.
when you get more specific, you will be able to get better results in terms of the onset and uptick in symptoms. You'll be able to recognize, yeah, that theme is active, but here is why this
Right.
specific thing was going on. So I want to jump back to the first one before we lose focus of the two you mentioned.
Okay.
Read it to me again.
Feeling of being unworthy, not measuring up.
Okay, so I'm going to ask some questions about this.
Okay.
What what in what ways do you feel not worthy when that happens?
Um, I feel like, um, I don't know. I think in my family, kind of a lesser importance, second class citizen sometimes, that what's important to me is not important to anybody else. And so my my gifts, my passions are quite different from anyone else in my family. And so mine are not important.
Okay, and that's
Uh,
getting into that second theme.
mhm.
So I want to hone these a little bit. I'm going to say back to you how I understand them,
Okay.
and I want you to tell me. You're the one who knows. Remember,
Yeah.
it's not me who knows. I put out a kind of idea, and then you help me polish it. So when you're saying that you don't feel kind of, what was the word you used? Remind me again. In the
I'm
first one?
unworthy.
Unworthy. Okay. When
Yeah.
you feel unworthy,
Yeah.
is it primarily because of the response your family had? Or do you feel unworthy in you?
No, I don't feel unworthy in myself.
Okay. See, that's important.
Yeah.
And now we're distinguishing. So this is good. I want you, instead of leaving it just as unworthy, we're identifying it's actually when you are not recognized by other important people.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're made to, I would say, doubt your worthiness.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So I want you to jot some of those polished notes in there.
Okay.
And I'm going to tell you why this is important, what we just did. But I'll let you get those notes down first.
Okay.
Okay, now the reason this is important is if you have a symptom and you're
Mm-hmm.
looking in the unworthy theme,
Mm-hmm.
if you were feeling maybe unworthy within yourself for some reason, which is not typical for you,
Mm-hmm.
I would say that's actually not likely to cause a symptom. It's the one that is the repetitive one that is likely to. So it's more when you are feeling totally worthy yourself,
Yeah.
but not getting recognized.
Yes. Yeah.
That's see how that's a more specific theme than just
Yeah.
unworthy. You did a great job. So this you've
Mm-hmm.
done a huge part of the work for me already, but this is what I'm good at, is to hone in on the specifics. Now when you're in a situation, let's say you got a headache or your shoulder hurts or you've got an upset stomach, and then you think about, oh, I don't know, maybe I brought something for dinner and people didn't appreciate it or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or I wrote something for a blog and nobody liked it. There could be all kinds of things. But you get to pinpoint it by getting these more specific. So let's move to the second one and let's do the same thing.
Okay.
Read it
So,
to me again.
um, feeling as though I was a scapegoat for our family and that I'm wired quite differently from my nuclear family, my parents and sister.
Okay, so here I'm just going to tell you how I'm thinking about it.
Mhm.
I hear that and I wonder, is this two themes or one theme? Because being the scapegoat might mean one thing, and being wired differently might be another. It could be that they're perfectly together, but I need to ask some questions to know.
Okay.
So, were you made to be the scapegoat because you're wired differently, or was there some other reason?
I'm guessing because I'm wired differently, and I agree. I think it probably is two different things. Um, yeah, I'm guessing that it
It
probably
it
is.
might not be, Diane. I just want to explore it.
Yeah.
Let me ask the question again and see though what the answer is, and then it'll guide us towards that, because I really don't know.
Yeah.
Would you say that you were scapegoated? Like, would they say to you, "Oh, Diane, this is your fault because you are wired differently, because you are sensitive, because you are"? Is that what would happen?
Yeah, sometimes that's what would happen. You're too sensitive, you're too this or you're too that.
Okay, how else did they scapegoat you? Because I'm just trying. I've almost got this.
Um, how else? Well, little things that my family would do. I was 2 years older than my sister, and so my parents always said that they had a little bit more money. So when she came along, well, it was only 2 years difference. So they would take her on a vacation and with her boyfriend, but not me. Things like that. Even when we were both at home, my mom would take her out for lunch and say, "You don't really like to go for lunch," that kind of thing. There were several vacations. They took her and her boyfriend to Mexico and to Scotland, and they gave her a car, but I had to manage on my own. Things like that. And then I would start to think I'm just being petty over little things. But my body's telling me something different. So
yeah, and listen, you're such a goodist.
yeah.
I knew this about you anyways.
Yeah.
But a little under 10 minutes into the session, and you are just oozing goodism, and I like that about you. I do. I admire it, and I just like it about you. But I want to help you channel it.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like it's been hard in certain ways, and
yeah.
so now I'm hearing actually 3 potential different themes. I just want to lay it out there. There's being scapegoated.
Yeah.
There's being wired differently.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm hearing in this is favoritism.
Yes. Yeah.
Is that something you noted in your later themes?
No, I didn't. I have thought of it, but I didn't write it down. But yes, I do think there's something to that. Yeah.
Okay, I want you to jot that down, and let's see if we can get these 3 things into some kind of theme form. We may end up merging them back together at some point.
Okay. Yeah.
But the whole idea is just to lay it out there, to get your main issues out on the table.
Yeah.
So being a scapegoat, again, I want to revisit to see if we can pinpoint this. Was it primarily because you were wired differently, or do you just feel like you were the scapegoat for everything?
Well, again, I'm guessing that it's because I was wired differently. I think my interests in life were quite different than my family's. The kinds of things that I like to do. I like the outdoors. I like skiing. Where my sister liked going shopping with my mom and looking at china cups and things like that, which didn't interest me at all. So I just was different, and I was maybe more open to sort of a spiritual path, and not religious. I'm not religious, but I do have a spiritual background. So that kind of thing was just not part of our family. I think I tended to see the good in people, and that isn't what happened in my family. And so I get put down for that. That kind of thing. Yeah.
Wow. I just want to say, Diane, this is very emotionally rich.
Yeah.
It is no wonder that you've had a lot of symptoms. So I'm going to say back to you what I'm hearing. Again, okay. I'm using what you brought as a template to start molding this.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing I'm hearing is I was not valued enough because I was different than they were, and viewed as a result as worse. Does that sound accurate to you?
Yeah. I don't think I was seen for who I am in my family.
Right.
And really, at this point, my father is gone now, but I don't think my family know me as well as my friends. That's for sure. Yeah. They don't really know who I am.
So now this is an example where you've got many different ways to say a kind of similar thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I want you to figure out what's the right wording for this. But I do think that there's something about being valued for who you are
Mm-hmm.
versus being attacked for who you are, or shunned, or blamed.
Mm-hmm.
Something about that. That's what the scapegoat theme seems to be telescoping into, as I
Yeah.
hear it.
Yeah.
Now, now I need to ask, does that sound right to you?
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Okay, but I need to check in with you because you're very agreeable.
Yeah.
I don't want you to just agree. I'm not saying you are, but I
Mm-hmm.
want to make sure that you're not just agreeing. I want you to push back because the more specific it is, the more useful this is.
Mm-hmm.
I won't be offended at all, but do you think we nailed that? Does that feel accurate, or is there more that we need to get at?
Oh, I think we've nailed that. Yeah.
Okay, so I want you to write that down.
Mm-hmm.
Some in your own words, not being seen or valued for you or accepted, and getting criticized for it.
Okay.
Okay, now I just want to point out one thing. This is an interesting example where
Mm-hmm.
what you had written down almost it got so specific about one aspect, which is a very important aspect.
Yeah.
But this draws it back out just a little bit. It's so weird. You have to get the right balance for it to be broad and specific enough, but not.
Yeah. I see that. Yeah.
Because I think the idea of you being too sensitive is only one of the examples.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a primary example, we'll make it its own theme. But I think it's a kind of subheading to
Mm-hmm.
this theme.
Mm-hmm.
And the way I think about it is you want to get kind of the main files that you click in.
Mm-hmm.
And this is it. Not being recognized, seen, accepted. Boom. We got it.
Right.
Okay. Now remember, the work you put in is what got us here.
Mm-hmm.
It would have taken us time to get there. This is much faster because of the work you put in.
As you're commenting in your questions, I feel my heart going, and I think, oh, yep. So I think you're hitting pay dirt here. So yeah,
right. The body's telling us, right?
yeah, yeah.
I do want to make sure though, and let's check in about this.
Mm-hmm.
Your heart could be racing. I don't think this is the case, but I need to make sure.
Mm-hmm.
Your heart could race if it feels like I'm labeling something that isn't. Like, I don't want to be repeating you not being heard. I would be very surprised if that's what you're feeling.
No, I don't get that sense at all. And I think for me, it would not be so much a racing heart, but I would just kind of tune out a little bit or feel a little bit vague and think, no, it's not connecting the dots.
Okay, that's the sense I'm getting.
Yeah.
But I really like to stay closely connected, you and I, on this. So, good. Okay, let's keep going with the themes. What's the next one that you have down? And we'll just keep polishing.
Okay.
Or was there one that I mentioned? I said there were three.
We talked about, you had added favoritism, scapegoating,
Right.
wired differently, and favoritism.
Okay, so I think we've got the scapegoating and wired differently in there.
Yeah.
What about favoritism?
Well, I've always felt that way, and my husband now is starting to see that in my family, where he didn't at the beginning. But again, and maybe that's the goodism in me, thinking, oh, everybody feels like that, and you're just being silly. Everybody thinks that the other person, especially amongst siblings, is the favorite, and that's just the way it is with sibling rivalry. So I haven't sorted that out, but I definitely feel like I am not the favorite.
Okay, so I'm just going to make a little recommendation here. Your body's telling you things about this, and we got to take it at its word. So, talk about being fiercely in your own corner. I don't want you to doubt. I don't want you to doubt that experience.
Yeah.
Typically, the favorite does not feel not the favorite. It's it's pretty plain as day. What usually happens is the person who doesn't feel favorite and is a goodist is going to doubt themselves.
Okay. Okay. That's good to know. Yeah.
So I would recommend that you at least entertain the idea. Maybe you are exactly right about this.
Mm-hmm.
And it certainly sounds like it. You know, you didn't get the car. You didn't get the trips. You weren't doing what your mom wanted. So
yeah.
I think this is
part
real.
of me thinks it probably doesn't matter. My body is viewing it that way. So, nobody's going to sign on the dotted line going, you are not the favorite. But my body's telling me different. So probably my perception is the most important part of it, I'm guessing.
I think that's true, but I want to take it a step further.
Mm-hmm.
This is where black and white thinking comes into play.
Yeah.
I don't think you're wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important that I would say that to you.
Mm-hmm.
Your body's telling us this. Your themes are telling us this. Your whole experience is telling us this. Part of my job is to make sure that you do not doubt your perception.
Mm-hmm.
That scapegoating that happened, that made you doubt whether you were right. Like they might have said to you, oh, you're just being oversensitive.
Yeah. Yeah.
Diane, you're so good to people. There's no way you'd be mad at people if there wasn't something happening.
No, it's not my nature. That's not who I am, in the rest of my life.
Not at all. Not at all. So this is why I want to hammer it home. I want you to validate yourself. Or at least I want you to feel validated by me that I don't think you were making that up at all.
Yeah. No, I do feel validated. Yeah.
Okay. So here's what I want you to put. Something along these lines. Even though I tend to let people off the hook, I did suffer because I wasn't favored. And that felt like a condemnation of who I am.
Yeah, you're hitting it right on.
Does feeling come to the surface when you think about that?
Yeah. And I found the older that I get, the harder it is to keep that down. So if I end up in tears, it's okay.
Not only is it okay, it makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I already know you well enough to know you have not gotten enough validation for legitimate things. And that has made you doubt yourself and your goodness. And that's not fair.
Yeah.
You won't find that with me.
I know that.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm happy to be here. If it will help other people, I think, to deal with all of that too. So yeah.
It will, including what just happened, because you have a tendency to play down what happened for you, and I won't let you.
Thank you.
I'm going to fight for you.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get you to fight for you. Even if it's just internally. I don't mean you have to go outside and fight with people outside, but in here, you have to know you did nothing wrong, and you did suffer in real ways, not just perception.
Mm-hmm.
So let's hold on to that. Go ahead. What were we going to say?
Yeah. Well, I've kind of sensed that this might have contributed to my pain for years, but you put it out there, especially around people close, and there's kind of a sense of, oh, it wasn't that bad. Just don't be silly. And so I think I have minimized it, but I've known that that's part of it. And again, not calling my family down. I think that they truly did try and do the best they could, but it didn't meet my needs. And so that's, this is where I need to start meeting my own. And as you say, be fiercely in my own corner now.
Right. And listen, they may have done their best, but that doesn't mean it was okay.
No. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So it's not about blaming them. It's about making sure that you know You don't have to ask permission to feel what you felt, or you don't have to call into question what you felt. I'm telling you, it was not perception.
Yeah. Yeah.
For whatever reason.
I think you're right. And so I do feel very validated with that.
Good. All right, let's keep going at it. What other themes did you have down?
Okay, so the next one is no one is really there for all of me. I do have lots of friends who are there for me, but not for the pain. So I have been pretty blessed. I have some great friends. I have a great network of friends. I have a great husband. And they do see me for who I am for the most part, except I think that value is put on being well and healthy and strong. And I find if I say anything about being in pain, people just don't even say anything. They don't acknowledge it. And so I tend to not say anything at all. I think people really have no idea. Probably to some degree, even my husband, although he does really try and be understanding. Sure. They don't get the level of suffering.
No.
And I understand that as a nurse. I know if you haven't been through it yourself, it is hard for people to see, what you're going through, and the nights that you lay awake and, you can't sleep because you're in so much pain and that kind of thing. So, yeah.
The only thing I wanted to add to it, though, Diane, and I this is from my own experience, I found that it was important. I think this is going to be a kind of major, broad theme, and might even be a core narrative kind of thing.
Yeah.
You're so good to other people and so giving to them, and you're likely to let them off the hook a lot. And that's not a bad thing. It's a very good part of things, but I got to help you with the other side. Yeah. And so the way I think about it is it is harder to empathize with somebody if you haven't had it, but they can listen. They could trust you.
Yeah.
They could take you at your word, and they could be interested. And so I do think that even if these are some great people and great people in your life and, good additions to your life, you still feel that a part of here's a way of putting it. I think you feel that even when you're seen, you never feel fully seen.
Yeah, exactly. That you've hit the nail on the head with that.
Okay.
They see a part of me, and then I turn it around, and maybe this is the goodism in me thinking, well, maybe I don't see all of them either, and so then I work harder at trying to see who they are. But yeah,
right. And yet I have enough experience with you to, I feel very seen by you. Your comments to me make me feel like you see the full me. So I don't think so. I think that you have a tendency to take on the responsibility. And it's harder for you to just kind of lay it at the doorstep where it belongs and say, I have never felt fully seen. So I want you to write that down as another theme.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Now, before we move on from that one, I have a question. What does it mean to you? That's the kind of broad topic, but what makes it high stakes? What does it mean to not be seen? Does it leave you feeling lonely, hopeless, disavowed, devalued, angry?
Angry. There's a little bit of anger in there. No, there's a big bit of anger in there.
Okay.
I guess that takes it back to not being fully worthy. And, your beginning comments, I do feel worthy in myself, and I think my self-esteem is pretty okay. But there are times where I don't feel, there's parts of me that don't feel worthy around some people. So it kind of links back to that comment.
Okay, so I see these as related themes, but they're different enough that it's good to have them separated, because when you're looking through your themes, you want to look at, okay, do I feel unworthy because somebody made me feel unworthy in some kind of judgmental way, Or alternatively, was I made to feel angry, and what was the other adjective we used for this? What does it feel like to you when you're seen in general, but not for this, not fully seen?
I feel like maybe I don't measure up to other people as much. So, amongst my friends that are well and healthy, if I'm in pain and I can't quite do some of the things that they do, even, when I was working professionally, that kind of thing, I just didn't have the energy to get there, then it makes me feel like I could have done that, but I just don't quite measure up.
Okay, so here's where I think this theme is different than the first.
Okay.
What I'm hearing is you say that the reason you're not fully seen is because something's wrong with you. I don't think that's true.
Yeah.
And I don't even think you think it's true intellectually.
No, yeah, and that's the interesting part. There's the intellectual part, which I understand, and then there's the heart part that is, gets a little confusion in there. But yeah.
So when you're not fully recognized, you start to actually believe something is wrong with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, I want you to push back if that's not right.
Yeah.
Only you know, but that's what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Does it sound right
to
you?
No, it does. Yeah.
Okay, let's put that down.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just want to highlight one thing, and then we'll move on to another theme. Okay, so when you're having the onset or an uptick in a symptom and you're looking through these themes, I need to make sure you do see the difference between the themes, because some of them are very related.
Yeah.
Both that first theme and this last theme we just did involve you feeling devalued. But the first one involves you feel that you are valuable, but other people aren't seeing it.
Yeah.
And this one involves other people aren't seeing the whole you, and that's making you think the part that isn't seen is bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if that distinction makes sense to you. It's subtle, but it's important.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a nuanced difference. And yeah.
Right. The one is about, you don't have any real conflict about you. You're not thinking you're bad, but the other people somehow are, and that feels so unfair.
Yeah.
And then this one is, well, if these good people who see me otherwise don't see this, then there must be something wrong with that part.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever thought of it like that before, but yeah, you're hitting on just the right little nuance difference. Yeah. That I've never really put together before.
Okay. And these are the specifics that make the difference in the emotions column.
Yeah.
Instead of just staying, I think a lot of times people come to see me and they're like, I don't know why I'm not having breakthroughs in the emotions column kind of department.
Yeah.
And I think it's because of nuances like this, where they're thinking of it as unworthy. But if we ask questions and we dig deeper, we separate it out in different themes so that you can now go through and be like, boom, 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 boom. Ah, it's that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, that makes sense. Yeah.
Good. It sounds like this is going to be really useful then. Okay, let's move to another one. We've got time for a couple more.
Okay. Grief. I've had many losses, loss of a partner. I think I mentioned that I'd had a liver transplant because of a viral infection. So that ended up being the loss of a career, and finances really shifted because of that, and relationship. So I think I have a lot of grief. The pain was there before all of this, but I don't think any of this helped. And I probably have grief around my family as well.
Around that issue, you mean? Or
not the transplant, but just my relationship with all of my family.
Okay. Yeah. So let's take it one at a time. Let's start with the transplant. What led to the transplant in the first place?
Helping a woman on a flight, a sick woman, and picking up a virus from her. and it went right to my liver, and I ended up in fulminant liver failure and needed a transplant urgent.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was pretty surreal experience, not something that anybody ever thinks of, or, maybe more with this pandemic, people think of those things, but yeah, it was
Right, but
on my radar.
not before then. And when
And
was this?
when was it? 2008. And I was flying to Toronto to a chronic pain conference, of all things.
Wow.
But totally different way of looking at pain than what we are now. But yeah, that's what it was.
So this is one thing where we're gonna have to unpack a little bit. What does that mean to you that this happened? Because the way I'm hearing it,
Mm-hmm.
your goodism
Mm-hmm.
exposed you to something. Goodism is
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
But do you is that part of what you felt?
Yeah, I did. It was a elderly woman in distress on the flight, and they asked for a nurse or a doctor 3 times, and I assumed that it was probably be some kind of cardiac issue, which is not the area that I worked in. So I didn't go initially. And then I thought, well, obviously this person's in trouble, and I'm better than no one. I mean, I can manage whatever it is. Even if the person dies on the flight, I could probably cope with it better than somebody that had no training.
Oh my God.
So that's what happened. Yeah.
So you rose to the responsibility.
Yeah. And then I got sick quite quickly. I never was one for getting colds or flus, but I thought that I was getting the flu when I was away, because I just didn't feel very well at all.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize I was going into liver failure.
Wow.
So that's what was happening. And then shortly after I got home, I was quite confused from it, because the ammonias from your liver go to your brain, and so ended up in hospital and being transferred to Vancouver. And yeah.
Okay, so you suffered a pretty serious trauma.
Yeah. Yeah.
So here's what I want to do. I want to see if we can pinpoint, what did this mean to you? I'm going to give you some examples. I'm not saying these are the case, but you could be thinking, the world is a dangerous place because one minute you can be fine and the next minute that happens. Or you could be thinking, good deeds always get punished. Look what happened. Or you could be thinking, life's not fair. I was in a good place and then it got taken away from me. I don't know which it is.
Well,
it could be more.
Yeah. Not any of those. You might be surprised with this.
Yeah, let me hear.
I actually felt super strong, because I cruised through the transplant. I almost died. I almost didn't make it, and they got a liver at the last minute. But I did exceedingly well. And, I was older. I was 55 when I had the transplant. And they kept saying that I was the poster child. But I felt like I could do anything. I can get through all of this. And I've gotten through a liver transplant. And it made me feel like, you know what, I can do whatever. I can do anything.
Great.
So I don't say that to many people because it sounds a bit braggy. But
not in the slightest. That's a lot to have come through.
Yeah,
and you came through it so well.
I felt I felt like, people don't get what we go through when we're ill, but I felt like an Olympic athlete, and training away. Nobody else could see it, and it was okay. The people that really knew me could see that, and it just made me feel like a pretty strong person.
Yeah, well, I'm very glad that you took it that way, and I think you're right.
Yeah.
But from a standpoint of the mind-body map, I would slide that all the way over to the power column.
Okay.
What you just described, I wouldn't say is that part's not going to be the emotional theme that could lead to the upticks, because the emotional themes are always about what was upsetting.
Right.
But you took something powerful and good about it.
Yeah.
And that fits in the power column. That's when you say to yourself, now wait a minute. I don't have to feel bad about myself, because remember who I am? I'm that person. I'm that woman.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's a very important observation, but I want you to put it in the power column. And, in 2 sessions when we get there, we'll bring that back up.
Okay.
And I did just want to say, this illustrates some of how this process goes.
Right.
Whether it's in my seminars or whether it's in these individual sessions, we are pinpointing where things belong. We're honing things. We're getting them in the right columns, because this organization frees you up from having to worry about, where do I look and what am I supposed to be looking at?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So now let's jump. Go ahead, Diane.
Oh, I just find the columns so helpful, pinning it down like that. Yeah.
Good. Because now what we're going to do is we're going to go back to the emotions column, and we're going to explore this transplant thing from the emotions column perspective.
Okay.
We know what the power column perspective is.
Right. Okay.
And there may not be an emotions column perspective. But I think we always want to ask the questions. We want to dig deep. Is it possible that there's some emotions column kind of theme that would be something along the lines of this? I have to do a great job all the time. And that can be a lot of pressure. I don't know if that's the case, but that's the kind of thing I hear in the transplant experience, where you actually turned it into a positive, which is wonderful.
Yeah.
But is there pressure to do that?
Yeah. And I think the other thing was there were a lot of losses with it. I wasn't well enough to return to work. So I lost a career that I loved. So, suddenly you're not the professional anymore. You're, at home and have health issues. And then I was on my own at that point. So financial issues, worried that I was going to lose my house. So yeah, there was a lot of losses with it as well.
Okay.
Which fit into the emotional part. Yeah.
Yep. So I think whatever those losses meant to you is now what we need to understand for that next theme. But first, do we also need to get into that theme of pressure to kind of achieve at a very high level, to do it really well? I don't know if it's the case, but it's just a place I'm looking.
Can you word that in a different way?
Sure. I'll give it a try. Well, you're a very competent person.
Thank you.
You've done a remarkable job with competence, and I can relate. I'm a very competent person also, but sometimes I don't recognize it, that there is a pressure or maybe an anger about having to be competent. Like I actually felt angry that I had to be competent from such a young age. That really upset me, and I didn't know it. My body knew it, but I didn't. So maybe a way of thinking about it is there anger about the burden of competence?
Again, I would not have thought of that until you asked the question, but then again, my heart's going, and I think, I think so.
Okay, so your body's telling us I'm right.
Yeah.
So let's write it down. This is what emotions column work is all about. There's going to be things you didn't know. The burden of competence. Okay, now let's deal with loss. What did these losses mean to you? I can give you examples, but I want to hear from you first, and then we'll hone it.
I think it meant that some of the choices that I had in life, I no longer had. Well, not losses around people, but losses around my profession and working and health. It just felt like now I was more constrained, and some of the things that I wanted to do, either career-wise or for pleasure or whatever, were not an option for me. Not that I had no options, but
no, I get it. But let's hone it a little bit more. This is another way I want to hone it.
Yeah.
I want to get at the specifics of why it's high stakes, and I'll give you an example. Like, it could be that you felt like, well, I got robbed of my identity, or it could be I lost the opportunity to achieve what I wanted to achieve, or it could be
that for sure. Yeah.
Okay, so let's go with that first.
Yeah.
What did you want to achieve, and what What got lost?
Um, well, actually, what I wanted to achieve is helping other people with pain. And, here I am circled around again and, working with you and the hopes of helping people down the road. That wanting to do something of value for other people in the world, that was a passion of mine.
And it sounded like you felt like after this, you doubted whether you'd be able to do anything like that.
Yeah.
So a sudden loss of efficacy in being able to help people.
Yeah.
I'd put that down because this is the kind of thing that can lead to symptoms. I'm going to say more about that in a second, but go ahead and put that down.
And not just helping. I mean, the maybe selfish side is doing some of the things that I had a personal passion for, of traveling. So I'm limited where I can go. I can travel, but I've done a lot of off the beaten track travel in the past, and now I have to be careful as a transplant patient. And just financially, because I'm not working, I'm not able to do the things that I wanted to do. So there was both the giving back and then my feeding my own passion.
Okay, so that's another theme. And I would say I'm more vulnerable and have less resources.
Yeah.
And those things restrict me from getting my needs met.
Yeah.
Okay, so these are the exact kind of themes that could lead to symptoms. Let's say a friend calls you up and is like, oh, I want to go on this, intense hiking experience or something in some very far away place. And you're like, I can't do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Boom, shoulder pain or knee pain or a sore throat.
Yeah.
This is how the emotions column works.
Yeah.
But now we have the broad theme. We've got the high stakes aspects to them, and we also have the specifics. Now, in the interest of time, because we're going to need to stop in a couple minutes here, are there any other major themes that we just need to jot down that we would get to in between session because we're not getting to them today?
I would say anger. I think because of all of this, I have more anger that I try and not express to the general public. And I had asked you in one of the Q&A questions about ruminating. I ruminate over and over, and it's like, I understand cognitively that that's not helpful, but I keep going back to that. So, letting go of the anger.
Okay, so let's put down just anger and rumination. We don't have that one honed yet.
Yeah.
But we know it's a theme we're going to work on. And I do want to say to you, whatever's going on in your mind and your body is not an accident. So the fact that you're ruminating on it means something's not resolved.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
So it's not bad that you're ruminating, because that's actually your mind saying, Diane, this is not okay.
Yeah.
We need a better solution.
Yeah.
The action steps and the power column, that's going to get you what you need with this.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Okay. Are there other themes that we need to work on?
Those I think were the key things. Unless I come up with something else.
Right. And you could.
Those are probably the biggest ones.
You could, in between now and next week, you could in a couple of years be like, oh, wait, I didn't realize this is a theme. The mind-body map is something that we continue to evolve, but you did a beautiful job of laying out some of the basics. I think we had a very successful way of working together, not surprisingly, to get this more honed. And it does sound to me like you're seeing how these themes are going to give you the bullet points to look through when you're having a new symptom or an uptick in a symptom, and think, which one of these is it? We gotta hone the anger one. But once we get that, I think you've got your list.
Yeah. No, that sounds good. I still haven't got to the point where I can look at each new uptick in symptoms and go, okay, that's what's happening. But I have had 2 or 3 successes where I think of it and it's like, whew, the pain just goes, but I'm not doing it consistently yet. So this will be really helpful.
Yeah. The specifics that's the difference. I think sometimes you've gotten the specifics and the symptom would drain away. So this is actually really exciting.
Yeah.
We're getting you on your way with this. And I want to thank you again. It's so generous.
So it's, I've expressed this to you before. I really resonate with the way that you put it out and your general demeanor, but it just makes so much more sense to me. And obviously more and more people are coming on that feel the same way. So that's great.
It is wonderful, and it's very gratifying to hear. So thank you for sharing that, and I look forward to continuing our work and our connection. And I will see you next week.
All right. Sounds good. Have a good week and a good long weekend.
All right. Thanks. You too, Diane.
All right. Take care.
Okay. Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
So much to say with Diane. I find this with anybody, that their life story is extremely compelling and the things that they've been through are so much. But the things that stuck out to me about this particular process are that she had so many of the right ideas, so close to right where it needed to be. But when we probed just a little bit more, we got at some subtleties that will help her to locate it so much better and pinpoint it so that she can get better relief. So that I was very pleased that we were able to illustrate that in this session. In addition, I didn't know about her liver transplant and how that was for her, but it really captured something about the little girl she was and what she had suffered through, and then being this good person, helping someone out, and kind of almost ending up feeling punished for it. I don't know that she felt that way, which is to her credit, but the things she's had to deal with give us all the reason in the world to understand why she has had symptoms. And I'm glad she's going to have a good roadmap to deal with that. We will look ahead to the doubt column next session, and I do look forward to that as well. If you haven't already, click subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, hit like if you like what you're hearing, and put your comments below, and I'll get back to you personally.